Howdy, howdy, howdy. We are back. Basement Brothers podcast episode 17 this time. Mo Money, what you up to?
Brother, I'm sitting here in this basement and I'm just enjoying life, brother. I'm enjoying life. I quick story for you. I thought I was going to have to replace my refrigerator because it wasn't like the freezer was working, but the top portion wasn't cooling things off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, damn it, man. Like, this is the worst time to have to
Yes.
buy an appliance because there's like no real sale going on. So they're going to, screw you. So
Yep.
anyway,
Yeah, completely.
my wife's like, she's not having it. She goes online, she's looking at all these different tricks, and we come to find out that it's probably due to like a clogged coil or like a dirty coil or something. Sure enough, we've got like this thing, looks almost like something that you can ream like if you got like a clogged drain or something. And my son's waving it underneath the refrigerator, and he's coming up with all this freaking fur because we've got like a chihuahua.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like all of this stuff is just caked up on the coil. And long story short, the refrigerator's blowing cool air again. We're in business, baby.
Oh, nice. Just need to be a little clean job. Getting the old fur sweater under there.
Yeah, brother. We're back in the game.
Nice, man. Well, that's good news all around.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I mean, since you got everything cooled off there, we might as well heat it up with some hot topics.
Let's do it, brother.
So I've never been one to specifically follow any dietary plan that a normal human should follow. I eat a lot of garbage, and I'm not saying that McDonald's is garbage. I've enjoyed a Big Mac or a burger from there quite a few times, sometimes weekly, sometimes daily.
Yep.
This guy has taken it to a whole nother level. He roughly has eaten a Big Mac every single day for, I don't remember how many years, but they'll tell us here.
Oh my God.
34,000 McDonald's. That's one local man's claim to fame, and he's going for even more. I'm your Fond du Lac neighborhood.
Oh my God.
Cahill,
and he's still alive?
And
yeah,
his wife
he's still alive.
His love for the fast food burger.
And he's thriving.
Also, like I am. So I've just stayed in my same old routine all the time.
Don Gorski of Fond du Lac has been a big fan of McDonald's Big Mac for decades.
Just for now,
he's not even big.
No, he's been eating a Big Mac at least one per day since like 1973 or something like that.
We've got a little gut on him, but
was parking spot number 3.
Not as big as I would have thought it would be.
This was where I ate my first Big Mac.
You can't get away completely unscathed.
On the very same day, and the rest is history for him, his wife, and McDonald's.
1975.
In 1975, that's where I asked my wife to marry me.
You could say it was
eating a Big Mac, no doubt.
Now, those pictures that were up of him, those aren't at the McDonald's, are they?
She was fine with me
yeah, I
eating
think
my
so.
Big Macs every day as long as I promised never to blame her for not cooking. And so our marriage works out really good.
It's a part of his life, but mostly I like him because he's a good guy.
Don tells me he typically has 2 Big Macs a day.
2 Big Macs a day.
Have you ever had a doctor or nurse tell you to stop eating Big Macs or cut down?
I think 10 times I've had 10 blood tests done to see about my cholesterol and stuff. And every time my cholesterol is so low that I don't even bother anymore. Because one time a nurse told me, she says, boy, your cholesterol is so low. You should really do something about it. I said, what do you want me to do? Eat 3 Big Macs every day?
What's start?
Now, this guy looks like a guy who should just be named Big Mac. I don't know.
I know, right? He needs a shaggy mustache and a beard for that, though.
He's the guy that came out of the van with Scooby-Doo, it looks like, in 1975 and ate a Big Mac.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, what a story. I mean, I feel so. The funny part about this story for me is what this really did for me was it validated that I'm going to eat as many goddamn Big Macs as I want. I'm going to continue to eat my McDonald's and my quarter pounders. Now, I'm a quarter pounder guy. The Big Mac I used to eat, back in the 80s and 90s when I was a kid. But now I like the old quarter pounder.
Yeah. My first job was at a McDonald's, so I have indulged in McDonald's for years upon years upon years. Now, unlike this guy who's apparently won the genetic lottery that he can eat these.
Dude, because his genetics are perfect because he looks like this.
Apparently. Listen. That brother's eating 2 or more Big Macs a day, and his cholesterol is so low it's barely registering, and they're telling him he should do something about it. He's hit the lottery. So imagine how slim he would be if he wasn't eating the burger. He probably would be, thin as a rod or something. Because like if he's eating that many Big Macs and fries, and probably he's drinking the pop. Well, I'm saying pop, but I'm gonna say it like we said back on Coke, or soda. But imagine how small he would be.
Dude, this guy started eating Big Macs the same time that he got this haircut and these sideburns, and he has not stopped since.
Right, like it looks like almost a toupee, to be honest with you. It's got like a two-tone thing going.
It's a hair helmet.
It's like it just kind of sits there, but
and he's got the long hair too. He's got the ponytail going. This guy is, he's a savant,
bro. 2 or more Big Macs a day, and the guy's still walking, and he hit the lottery.
He's maintained a wife all those years that supports his habits with Big Mac. I mean, this guy's got it made.
Well, think about it.
Wisconsin.
Think about it. She doesn't have to cook, so she's happy.
He's happy. He's getting his Big Macs. He gets to get away from the wife for a while and enjoy a Big Mac. They got it perfect.
Yeah, I hope they give him a discount considering all of the money he's spending there, Yeah,
considering he's bought this restaurant over and over a couple of times with what he spent on Big Macs.
He should be part owner by now.
Jesus, maybe he's Hamburglar, the real Hamburglar.
No, that should be his name. He should be the Hamburglar because he's eating lots of burgers, man. So and if not anything else, the fact that he spent so much money and so much time there, you'd think that maybe they'd offer him a job.
Probably so. You know what's sad though, with the way the job market's going, they seem to be really wanting to get rid of old people.
Yeah,
and he looks like he would fit the bill for somebody they would try to get rid of so they can eat more Big Macs than work there.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that we see people get screwed over in the workplace, and that kind of transitions us into this next segment here.
4 tactics that employers use when they want to get rid of older people. The first tactic is job relocation. This happens when the employer relocates the employee's job, giving them no other alternative but to move,
force them to quit
with the job, or leave the company.
Yep.
Some employees will not want to move or cannot afford to move, especially in today's housing climate. Now we can consider if the job location is 1 or 2 hours away and the employee wants to keep their job, they have to commute.
I ain't working at a job where I got to drive 2 hours.
Is now in a position where they have to consider doing a cost-benefit analysis just to go back and forth to work. That's a huge decision to consider based on the amount of time that the employee has already invested in the company. The second tactic is an oldie but not goodie: layoffs. This is the most common way and the safest way for employers to push employees over 50 years old out of their positions. The third tactic is to use negative performance reviews or PIPs.
Isn't that easy?
The employee will experience an increase in reprimands. All of a sudden, the employee doesn't know how to do anything right. Mind you, they've been in this position for years and probably decades, but now they're inept. They're not as sharp as they used to be, and the employer just doesn't know what's going on with them.
Jeez.
And the fourth tactic is changing an employee's responsibilities and their work hours.
Wow.
The change in responsibility can come with a change in duties, removing direct reports, decreasing or increasing the workload. And honorable mention, they isolate the employee. They exclude them from meetings and other workplace activities. The whole goal of this is to get the older worker to voluntarily quit. Somehow employers have a way of making employees think that they have to quit, and they don't. The bottom line is the employer just doesn't want to get sued.
Well, I'll say this. I worked for a company that I won't directly say their name. I'll just say it rhymes with ESP. Okay. And some of these different tactics that she mentioned, I've seen deployed or used on different people, coworkers, colleagues at different times. And it's just amazing how much, employers ask of you, how much loyalty they expect from you. But at the same time, there's very little giving back in return. Like they just when
Oh,
they're ready to be done with you, they will do literally anything to get rid of you.
yeah, and let's be honest, as you if you're at a company for a while and as you've been there, you're going to get performance increases and pay increases. Most of this entire process is done to weed out people who have earned the money they should be getting and over long periods of time, in some cases decades, and cut that guy out and hire somebody in for almost pennies on the dollar. That's what it's all about. The age isn't as much the importance of versus what money you're getting paid over time.
Yeah.
Because they don't care if they hire they'll hire a guy that's 90 years old if they can get him for $10 an hour.
Yeah, it's crazy, especially in like some of these right to work states too. It's one thing when an employer refuses to give pay raises. You know, they always have a convenient excuse as to why they shouldn't. But the weird thing is you still have to do these stupid performance reviews, and the worst of them all is a self-review where you review yourself.
Oh my God.
So you go through this and you come up with these fake metrics that you really didn't want to come up with, and these strategies and career development goals, and then you do all this crap, and at the end they still don't give you the damn raise. You're like, why did I do this if you weren't going to give me anything? I'm only doing this because I'm thinking I'm getting more money. What was this for?
Completely. And dude, to the point that some years ago, I after kind of watching this process take place, the only reason they really do performance reviews is to get you psychologically ingrained into trying to do more work for them.
Yes.
Period. It's like I used to use this analogy where it's like if you lived in a totalitarian regime ran state where if you didn't do what they told you to do, a guy comes to your house, puts a gun to your head. If you don't do it the second time, they pull the trigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
The system here, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier in another episode, the capitalism-based cronyist the capitalism system that we have here is more like, how do we get you psychologically manipulated into giving us everything until we take it all?
Yep.
So the review process fits right into that because most people, and when you hear them, and a few years back in my review cases, when we're in terms of working at a company, I just started basically being defiant and acting like I was the best employee that ever lived. That's the answer I give them. Like, the absolutely best performance I could ever do. There's nothing you could do to question it. And what's interesting in my case is the employer just kind of agrees with it now. They don't even question it.
Yeah.
But for the people who actually have like that modicum of self-esteem, issues where they're like, oh, maybe I could have done a little bit better there. That company has got you by the balls.
Yep, because you're always trying to prove something to someone who really doesn't care. It doesn't matter what you do.
You're trying to prove it to yourself now. Like you're second guessing yourself, like going, oh, I could do better on this, and oh, I should be better, and I should work harder. They got you like policing yourself now. It's
and think about this too. Like to add insult to injury is when they don't give you a pay rate increase, right? Cost of living goes up every year, but they don't give you a pay rate increase, but then they give you additional responsibilities after they lay other people off. Yeah. So my reward is to do the other guy's work and still get my pay, which wasn't enough for just doing my job.
Completely. Yeah. You're there to do more and more work and take on more burden and more stress and more personal detriment. And we're not going to pay you anymore. And on the top of it, we're going to use these psychological tactics to get you to feel even worse about the job you're doing. So you don't even have the confidence to go find something else. It's like, oh, maybe this is the best I could ever get is this job. Wow. It's every tactic under the sun. And just like she was talking in there, like the fake performance reviews, changing and making it so hard for you to do the job you've already been doing. Like they'll do everything they can to make it harder for you so they can basically age discriminate or wage discriminate, fire you because you're getting too much money and they don't want to pay you anymore, basically illegally, because that's exactly what they're doing.
Well, these are really frustrating times for me in particular, to have to go through these struggles, trying to, make your way through the work world. It's almost enough to make a guy actually get off the couch, out of the basement, and get into shape and become like an exotic dancer or something. Because
that's where the money is. OnlyFans.
Yeah. This ain't cutting it, brother. I got to do something different.
I couldn't be more with you, my friend. It's like now is the time.
Man, well, that takes us right to our next section, our next segment.
Yes, it does. So I stumbled into an interesting site the other day where, with all the new AI software out there, AI video editing, AI video generation, all this stuff, these guys were actually generating like old films, like action movies, and basically any type of like dramatic film, and they were converting them into movies that what they kind of would have looked like if it came out in the 1950s. And it was super cool. So just watch this and you get an idea of kind of what they were doing with them.
The depth of an unforgiving jungle where danger lurks behind every shadow and survival is a game of wits. One creature stalks its prey with deadly precision. Welcome to the world of Predator. Meet Dutch, a battle-hardened soldier leading a team of elite
Totally looks
commandos
like
on
the
a
50s,
mission
doesn't it,
deep in enemy
that's not the Governor.
They become the hunted. They must confront an enemy.
And look at
unlike
Predator,
any
right?
they've
Like the
ever
costume
faced
would be
before.
totally
As
make
the
sense for
Predator
back
picks
then,
them
right?
up
Like
one by one.
they would a
Dutch and
cheesier
his
kind of
team
costume, like
must rely on their training and
clearly
cunning
a guy
to
in a rubber
survive.
suit.
In Predator, the only thing more terrifying than the
That looks
creature
like more like the traditional
is the
Predator.
realization that they are not alone. Coming soon to a theater near you. If you enjoyed this video, please.
I just thought that was so cool because they literally took movies and they AI'd them into like what it would look like in the 1950s. So like this guy totally would be representative of like, Arnold's character of the 50s. Just the slick back hair dude, and the way the jungle looks in the fake, the makeup and the sweat, and sprayed down so they look like they're sweaty.
No, that's cool. I've seen them do the same sort of thing with music. Like I stumbled onto a YouTube channel where they take like modern rap and hip hop type songs, but they do them up in like a Motown style, and it's really cool. Like it's really cool. Like how they can create these throwbacks. Why does that Predator look almost like a gremlin or ape mix, like a hybrid?
Well, and what's even crazier is like this is all AI feed, so I don't know if they I don't know if AI generated this whole video or if they just took individual shots and made them an AI and then kind of just spliced it together. But these guys are using some AI platform to generate all this stuff. So for whatever reason, it generated this Predator to look like what a 1950s Predator would look like versus it more primitive and rubber suitish than the new ones. It actually looks cool. But yeah, it looks like a gremlin, kind of concept character.
It's actually a cool sort of look to it. So
yeah, it is. It is totally evil. Like if this came out in the 50s, could you imagine people? They'd be like jumping off of buildings back then. If a movie like this came out in the 50s.
No, it's just amazing what they could do with AI these days. It's like
it's super cool.
It's a lot of creativity. A lot of things that you can do that just a couple of years ago you could only barely imagine, let alone to actually execute in a matter of seconds, minutes.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, hunter, you can hunt the Predator in the jungle, or you can hunt the Predator in your own bed.
Word out about a sexually transmitted form of ringworm that's newly into the U.S.
Wow.
So far, there's one reported case, and
nothing says loving like sex ringworms.
Here's what doctors know so far.
It's an infection that comes from the same fungus linked to conditions you may know of, like ringworm, jock itch, and athlete's foot.
What makes this case a little bit different is it is a type of ringworm that can cause more inflammatory type lesions, and it can occur in the groin area or the genital area.
And led the study
I
and
suppose
authored a
it's,
report published in the journal JAMA
transferred
Dermatology
over
earlier
from the
this
other
week
person, though.
on trichophyton
Apparently.
metagraphites type 7, or TM7. It's a sexually transmitted infection that can appear like this in the groin area and can be itchy. So far, the one reported case in the U.S. is in New York City. A man in his 30s, the report says.
It was reported in a journal, which tells you that it's new. We're still learning about it. Because it's just this one case, I think we're really starting to understand how could this have happened.
The study says the patient noticed itchy lesions after a trip to England, Greece, and California, where he said he had sex with multiple male partners. Cases popped up last year in France. Earlier ones were linked to those in contact with sex workers.
He made the most out of that trip.
If they have a persistent itchy or painful lesion or eruption around the genital area of the buttocks, that's when they should be seeking medical advice.
The rash could be mistaken for other conditions. If left or improperly treated, it could lead
Yeah, it definitely
to
looks
infection.
like ringworm.
Doctors say it is treatable thanks to antifungal therapies. City Health Commissioner Dr. Ashwin Vasan says the doctor's office is always judgment-free.
Shame always gets in the way of getting healthy. So I would say never feel ashamed to go reach out to your doctor.
Doctors say communicating with your partner about having conditions like this is key in preventing the spread. Christy Kalishian, CBS.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, this, obviously, yeah, I suppose anytime they find some new bacteria or something that can have a problem, when the way it's spread, I guess, can be problematic because obviously it'll change and the way. But I mean, jock itch and athlete's foot and all these things are just if you're a guy that's big and sweaty like I am, these are conditions I've dealt with my entire life in one, almost every year, in fact, because like these not necessarily just jock itch, but I mean athlete's foot is super spreadable. Super
It
spreadable.
is. It is. I can relate to that because I have sweaty feet. So
Oh yeah, me too.
If I don't take extra care when it comes to my feet, and sometimes even when I do, it can flare up on you, and it's just it's one of those things. But we giggle. You have patient zero over here with the sex ringworm.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you, like, everything around us is so fluid. It's it's like things are changing. You had the COVID virus to come along. I think down in Florida they had leprosy to spring back up or something. Like, it's just all kind of weird things happening, and it's like it starts to make you think, like, what's going on? Are like we overpopulated? Or we too coming into too much physical contact with people? Like, where are these different things coming from, and why are they all converging on us right now?
Well, it also makes you wonder too, because obviously everybody, in terms of like the processization of foods and medicines and everything is so heavily processed now, that it's hard to go to a grocery store and not find something processed. And back in the day, if you went in the grocery store in the 1960s, you'd almost find nothing processed, right? Like, it'd be difficult to find more than a couple of bags of snacks back then that were fully processed. Now everything in the grocery store is all processed. So I often wonder, if you're taking all these steroids and minerals and supplements and all these things that are fortified within your foods, what's that doing to the viruses and the bacteria that we've had forever anyway? Obviously, ringworm has been around forever. It's just a fungal rash. The fact that it could be spread this way doesn't really surprise me. In fact, I'm more surprised this is the only case of it spreading that way, because if you got jock itch, which always usually appears around your groin area anyway, just naturally you're going to be in close proximity to some sexual contact. You're going to be in close proximity from groin to groin. I'm surprised nobody's gotten it that way before.
Yeah, and clearly there are cases somewhere else, and wherever these different locations that he traveled to, clearly he got it from one of those locations. So maybe there it's kind of an undiagnosed issue. Like you say, it's something that's probably very common. It's a rash,
Yeah, because I mean, athlete's foot. If I was to sit down and count the amount of times I've had athlete's foot in my life, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I went through so many spray powders and tenactins over the years that, I mean, it's almost like if it's going to be summertime, I'm going to get it at some point. Almost no way around it.
What comes to my mind is two things particularly. One, this is not a case of something that's deadly, but this is a reminder of how serious it is to be out here and casually having sex with people. Even with protection, as you can see, there are different ways that you can come up with something. So I just think it's just so risky now. It's not like back in the day where people were kind of just free balling it. You can't do that now. Like, you got to literally put on an entirely like a rubber suit. So that's one. Yeah, that's one. And then two, just like how things, bacteria and things of such evolve. I just saw literally like maybe a day or so ago, there's supposedly some bacteria that's eating the plastic that's polluting our ocean. So like, it's so much plastic in the ocean. There's some specialized bacteria that's eating the plastic.
Sure, it's adapted because there's so much in abundance of it. It's using it as a food source now.
Yes, isn't that crazy though?
That is crazy. That is crazy. I mean, and it really goes to show the proof of evolution is right there, because organisms are always evolving based on their surroundings, and it's got an abundance of plastic, so the stuff evolves to figure out how to use it as a food source.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it eats up all the plastic, is it going to start eating people?
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, it'll spit the people out to get to the plastic.
Well, you know what? With some of these models that are out there, they're mostly plastic anyway. So
that's true. That's true. Yeah, you get fish takes a bite out of them, and the fish gets toxicity, gets poisoned.
Speaking of toxicity, moving on to our next segment, we got one of your favorite people. I've been waiting for this one.
You and me both. My old friend Alex Jones, one of my absolute favorites from going way back in the old days. When I was a kid, I used to listen to some Alex Jones in the 90s when he was just kind of getting started out. And in the last number of years, Alex has really, in my mind, gotten pigeonholed into being a psycho with nothing to say. The guy has had a lot of interesting and or investigative type things over the years, but because a lot of his show revolves around entertainment or has been entertaining to an extent, most of the things he says just gets dismissed, and some of them are just there for the views. I mean, he's saying things to be, to push the envelope. Interesting clip of him just being Alex as Alex would be.
Eat babies. I eat them every night. I eat them with barbecue sauce. I flew to the moon one. I took DMT with Easter bunnies.
He's so animated.
Crazy. I mean, this is art. And I'm not saying when I do
this is art.
But everything is art.
What the hell is that?
It's like olive oil. It looks like olive oil. It looks like.
Don't leave your business vulnerable.
So I remember literally that's just a hilarious Alex Jones clip.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, and it's like I've always loved Alex and some of the stuff he did on his shows, but he's gotten to the point now where he gets like they throw the book at him for everything. Like there's a lot of shit this guy has said over the years that was literal things that were happening, and then they came true, and then people are like, "Oh God!" And it's like it's crazy how like if you play an outrageous character, if some of the stuff he's doing is just crazy to be crazy to get views, which that's how people are today. Watch YouTube. There's people out there doing pranks and bizarre shit just to get views, yet they'll demonize Alex because he says some crazy shit, and sometimes it's just meant to be crazy. He's not even serious about some of it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's to me, it's there's a big problem when censorship has gone so far where you can't say anything anymore, almost at all, because you're going to be policed by the social environment that you're in first, and when you're found guilty there, you're screwed.
You know what? I have not followed Alex Jones closely. You and I have had several conversations about him. I look at Alex Jones in the same way that I look at even someone like a Sean Hannity. They're not really to be taken seriously. I look at them as entertainers masquerading as people who are giving information. Now, you may have started out watching Alex Jones when he was really doing some serious material, and then you realized that the money is in shocking people or doing things that are controversial. So a side of him that I don't know. I would say this because the next portion of this segment is Alex Jones. So we got a double dose of Alex Jones. I would say maybe run that second video, and then I can get into more in depth as to like my personal perspective on Alex Jones and the situation that he's in. So maybe let's run that.
Can you muster a war cry?
It's a big joke.
It's not really though. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's also inspiring.
My voice will completely go. I do this, but it's fine. It's my resistance to them. It's
my resistance to them.
It's a human under attack.
The globalist.
He sounds constipated. Get out of me. Get out of me.
I gotta beat these people.
The cry.
I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but it's been a hard fight. These people hate our children.
And the one thing about Alex with all this current stuff where it's like they're literally forcing this whole Sandy Hook thing that happened, and it's like Yeah, did he say a lot of crazy shit about Sandy Hook? Yes, there were things he said in the shtick, in the entertainment of it, that were crazy, and he made claims about false flag and all this other shit. He's done this with all kinds of other things before.
Yeah.
The problem I have is you should be able, in terms, especially in terms of entertainment, where do you draw the line on what can be entertaining and what is actually legally binding? I think this is where this case has hurt us all in terms of, especially in terms of a person trying to make content on the internet. I mean, the case with Alex Jones has hurt everyone because it's basically saying no matter what you say, they're going to hold you to some standard of degree, even if it's something that somebody else said. Now, much of the Sandy Hook stuff that he was being bombarded with over being his fault about making the claims it was fake and all of the stuff that he said were coming from some other reports. And he even went to that in the trial, talking about how, he was talking about the stuff these other reporters were talking about.
Yeah.
That's just it. It's like, I mean, at what point do you, and then the whole crying thing and him breaking down, I totally get he's in a bad spot now. He's got to liquidate everything now because of this $1.2 billion settlement, which I think is just insane. He didn't go to Sandy Hook and kill anyone.
No, he didn't. I'll say this. I'll say this. You and I very rarely disagree. We're very like-minded. Alex Jones is one of those areas where we're going to disagree. I don't hate Alex Jones. Even like Donald Trump, I tried purposely not to talk about politics on this platform because I don't want it to get like that because it's too divisive. But like, to me, I really enjoyed Donald Trump's Apprentice, like the Celebrity Apprentice. I really enjoyed Donald Trump, the character that was on that show. Not so much Donald Trump, the politician, but the Donald Trump on that show. And I could compartmentalize and I could separate them. And I look at Alex Jones in sort of the same way. He's entertaining. This is the thing, though. I don't feel sorry for Alex Jones at all, mainly because even if he was pulling stories from someone else, at some point, when he saw that it was creating damage for the parents of those kids that were killed, he should have backed off. But I don't think he ever actually backed off. And I think he made a conscious decision when he started getting a certain level of like maybe viewership, sponsorship. He was generating revenue off of it. He made a decision to say, you know what, I got to stick with this because this is my meal ticket. This is bringing me more viewership and I'm making money. And he started selling more supplements and stuff because now people are looking at him as an authority. And at some point he disconnected the fact that there were like feelings and lives that were attached to it. And he didn't go and kill anyone. And he may have very well have just been showing those videos. But I think it was distasteful in the way that basically he was minimizing the pain and the suffering of those parents. And, my children are adults now, but I know how I cherished and protected them when they were younger. And I imagine, there were times when I was worried about them going to school because of these different school shootings. And I imagine had something happened to them, if someone was making light of that and saying that I was a crisis actor or my wife, I would have a problem with that. And I think the other issue that I have with it is that I think that some of the families and some of these parents, people were coming after them, like people were kind of threatening them because they felt like that, this was all kind of a charade. So I just kind of feel like you live by the sword, you die by the sword. He made a calculated choice to make money that way. So it's ironic now that if he's losing money, it's because of the choice that he made. That's why I don't feel sorry for him. But I don't hate Alex Jones.
I completely agree. I don't necessarily feel sorry for Alex Jones, especially with all the stuff that's happening. My whole thing about it is, to me, to charge the guy with the amount of money they've like, okay, I agree with you. Like, let's say they come out and they say this was too much, right?
Yeah.
The courts, in my eye, have a duty to do things in a responsibility to reality, more so than they do it to opinions, or more so than the fact that all these people don't like Alex Jones. Fine, I understand that. I totally get that, right? This is more of a vendetta against this whole presentation of Alex Jones, right? Because it's not just Alex Jones. They're kind of attacking anybody who has the ability to have an opinion now.
Yeah.
And the fact that you levy a $1.2 billion judgment or whatever it was against this guy, slap him with a $500,000 judgment, right? That he can actually pay. He can't pay $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous anyway. The families aren't going to get a dime from that. He's going to be able to go to the bankruptcy and they'll liquidate a few things and they're not going to get a fucking dime.
Yeah.
You could slap this guy with, they could have said, here, Alex, we're going to charge you a $2 million slap on the wrist. And I agree. You could make the argument that once everything was found out, he went too far with it. And sure, you could levy a damage. They could have done it in a way that served reality, and it didn't set such a precedent where it's like, what are you and I have we have an opinion about the guy eating McDonald's. Now we're going to be sued for $2 billion.
I know, right?
You know what I mean? That's what it's gotten to.
Yeah.
Like Alex
Yeah.
Jones has said a lot of crazy shit. And yeah, I don't agree with 80% of the stuff Alex has said in certain periods.
Frogs are gay.
Yeah, the frogs are gay. But once again, I can also realize that there's some of it's entertainment. And this reminds me of the Ozzy Osbourne Suicide Solution song. I don't know if you remember this when Ozzy was sued because a kid committed suicide because Ozzy wrote a song. This is way back in the late, it was the 80s. It was the early 80s. He wrote a song called Suicide Solution. It was about alcoholism because obviously he was an alcoholic as well, right? Like he was basically explaining that, you could die this way, but alcohol is quicker, or whatever. Or was slower with liquor. He was talking about all these ways you could kill yourself that were, just bad, drugs and alcohol and all this shit.
Yeah.
And some kid committed suicide and they sued Ozzy for it. And it's like, there's a certain point where it's like, what I hate is, there's always this what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a double-sided sword, but it's an equivalency issue where Alex said a lot of stupid, crazy shit, but so is a lot of other people.
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the real issues. It's like, where do you stop then? If it's like, it almost reminds me of the Bill Cosby thing too. Like they look at how they drug Bill Cosby through the ringer for what he did. Now, once again, Bill Cosby, there's some of the shit he did, and some of the case he did some of that stuff, right?
Yep, Bill did that shit.
Totally, right? So he deserved, when they came after him for that shit, he deserved it, blah, blah. But he didn't deserve to be demonized for some of his messages, because a lot of his messages were good.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the stuff that drives me insane, is it's like, so there's this precedent that gets set where it's like, even people like you and I, if we have an opinion about something that somebody doesn't like, what are we going to do? We got to file bankruptcy now?
Yeah.
They're going to come after us for $100 million because, we said something about McDonald's French fries, or it's just things like that that's what I don't like about it.
Yeah. And you know what? I agree with you, because that is an insane amount of money. And I agree that what the goal was. I look at intention, right? I look at the amount. Okay. Is intention to make him pay a price and stop the behavior, or is the intention to shut him down? And when you come up with a fine like that, or a judgment like that, to me, you're trying to shut him down, because there's no way he's going to be able to pay that money, let alone pay that money and keep the doors open. Like, it's just not going to be possible.
Well, but here's the thing, and this is why it's so stupid, right? Today with technology, the way it is, he's going to have to liquidate what he has in terms of maybe a studio that he has, but he even has a bigger platform.
Yeah.
Right, because now he's turned into a pariah where people are siding with him because they're going, this is ridiculous that they've cut this guy down, and they're doing. There's going to be people just like in the case of Trump recently with his trial, where he wrote something in the case like $50 million or something, like 24 hours after the felony trial. You create this thing where he becomes an underdog against the system now, to the point where now people are just going to blindly give him money to be able to. He's going to continue to produce stuff.
Yeah.
A cell phone in a fucking basement, just like you and I, we can produce a show.
Yeah.
So, that's the real thing, is it's like, so at the end of the day, none of the people are really going to get anything, because by the time they liquidate everything down and what all the creditors and everything that he's got, it's going to get washed away anyway. What the attorneys are going to get their fair share.
Yeah.
People aren't going to get anything out of this. He's still going to be a huge name. He's still going to be on all these platforms. Elon Musk is going to probably give him a fucking platform or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
put him on X.
Yeah, dude, they were already talking about that. And now, because it's such a big deal, because the government's kind of stepping, not necessarily the government, but powers that be are stepping into this liquidation process, goddamn well someone's going to be in there to help them.
The thing that I'm wondering about too is how they came up with the amount. Is it proportional to just the harm caused, or is it proportional to the money he's made, or the money forecast, into X amount of years? It's like, how did they come up with that figure?
It was so out of whack, because they had even showed some of his books that they had for a few years. And there were some years that he was generating 30, 40, $50 million between the supplements. I mean, he had a big company. Let's not split hairs. I mean, the guy was making some serious money for sure, but never in the ballpark of that kind of money.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, to your point, I agree. If you're looking at shutting this guy down, sure, they can make that claim in terms of operating this as the business that operated with the supplement company and all of the studio stuff and the staffers and whatever the hell else he had. Yeah, it's going to be hard for him to operate. He won't have anything, but you don't need anything anymore. That's the problem they're really not seeing. So instead of slapping, I agree. I think Alex in this case, because what just to your point, exactly your point, I agree with. After the fact, it was determined it was bad, and he was in to the point where he probably egged some of these crazy people on to an extent. You could make the argument and say, well, he may be liable for some at least punitive damages, right? So
Mhm.
hit him with something, hit him with $5 million, right? $5 million. Take that and split it between the 28 families or whatever there was in the Sandy Hook thing.
Mhm.
Alex would pay it, and all of them are going to get a couple $100,000 at least or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Now they're probably not going to get a goddamn thing because who knows how that 1.2 billion was allocated anyway? Like one person might have got 800 million, and the other person got 200 million, and one person got 50. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just stupid. It's not going to bring justice. It's not going to help this. All it did is make it easier for people to sue and win in the court of public opinion on when somebody says something you don't like. And to me, that goes completely against freedom of speech, and it's going to set a precedent for everyone, basically. Anybody on this platform that wants to come out and say something, if it's not held as a popular opinion, you're looking for, they're going to come after you.
Yeah, I tend to side with preserving rights. Like I wouldn't want to see our rights under attack. I wouldn't want to see freedom of speech under attack. I feel like we should have some sort of ability to say the things we need to say. Now, if it becomes damaging now, yeah, maybe you have a case or something. But like, I don't know. I don't like I said, I don't know how they came up with the figure. I just assume that what it is they've decided that we need to silence and we're going to shut them down. I know, like with Tucker Carlson, he lost his gig over at Fox, and then he popped back up on X, and kind of thumbing his nose at Fox. But I don't think he's going to have anywhere near the platform of viewership. It's not going to be the same. Will he still have a platform? Will he still have opportunities out there like a Chris Cuomo or Don Lemon, who are kind of all doing their own thing? Yeah, he'll have a platform, but it won't be the same. And this is a way, like you say, to control people. Now, Alex Jones may not be my favorite person. I don't dislike him, but he's not someone that I've watched a lot. But like you said, you don't want to see this happen to anyone, because if it can happen to him, it can happen to someone else. It's just, I just think that he needed to back off. If he had backed off, it would be more difficult. But I think he didn't, and it just left a bad taste in a lot of people.
Some of it too was driven by once he hung his hat on that. I don't know that he necessarily pushed as much as they made the claim he did, because even through I watched a lot of the court case when it happened, because it was interesting to watch what happened in the trial itself. They didn't provide many times afterwards where he really talked about it that much. All the news media started bringing it up, right? Like, so then they started interviewing him. Oh, Alex said this and that, and he would come out on he even came out with that Megyn Kelly. It's Megyn Kelly, I think, that did the interview with him. But anyway, he even came out and was talking about how he came out afterwards and retracted what he said about it and all this stuff.
Oh, he did retract it. Okay,
Yeah. So he actually said, yeah, no, I did believe it happened, and I didn't, whatever. And then he pointed out some of the documents that pointed out the things he said came from somebody else. Like most of his stories, he's getting these from other reporters.
Gotcha.
So there was a whole bunch of weird facets to this trial, and then it's like, okay, and even so, okay, let's say you got all the way through that, and you said, okay, Alex, you were still negligent because it was proven that that had happened, and you still did X amount of broadcasts about it or whatever it was. Fine, slap him with a punitive damages, slap him with a salute, whatever it was. But there was so many weird things in that trial that were, and I think this is why. I had no problem with Alex Jones having a show and having his InfoWars and having all this stuff for all the years. And just, he was a guy that was on the sidelines, really. Back in the day, he was one of the only people in the conspiracy game that was doing an entertaining show, but he was kind of left to the sidelines when we got into the new age of YouTube and digital media. Like, I don't see him as being that big of a player in the game. He was making money, but if you look at somebody else like a Ben Shapiro or somebody like that who just does an informational, political style channel, obviously that guy had way more influence, way more, than Alex Jones really had. So, but now he's got even a bigger, now people are literally going to bat for him because they think he's being demonized by the institutions.
I think you're underestimating one thing, though. One thing you cannot do. Maybe it's two. You can't do things harmful to puppies, animals, and to children. You will be cast out of society. Like literally, someone can murder me in the street, and like it was like, oh, I guess it was just time to go. But like, if you like ran over a puppy, like you will never ever be accepted in society ever again. So like, you don't mess with children and puppies. And
yeah, but what about the Catholic Church?
Well, that's something different. but you get what I'm saying, like.
Yeah.
That's the way it's gonna be, man. Look at Michael Vick, man. The dude went to prison, lost every fucking thing, and they want to take more from the guy. Like, what's this?
It's this whole mob of social media. It's the social media mobs now that are going to make the judgment upon whether you have guilt or whether you're decent or not. And I believe me, I agree. Michael Vick doing the shit with the animals and stuff is terrible. Like, if you're torturing an animal, you're a scumbag. I'm sorry, just the way I look at it. But yeah, it's like there's a difference between there's like mass murderers out there that hold like a liking in society. It's stupid.
Yeah. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, love them or hate them, I think everyone deserves to be able to earn a living. I would never want to see, we have a weird society where we say, we believe in reform. We believe that people can go to prison and better themselves and come out and all these sorts of things. But in reality, we don't really forgive people. Like we want to let things hover and over their heads for the rest of their life. We want them to pay in perpetuity. We want them to just suffer forever. And I hope that's not the case. Not even for Alex Jones. I hope that he can make a living because he's got mouths to feed too. And I just hope that in this particular instance he's learned his lesson and he's more careful about the sort of stuff that he's going to put on his platforms. But he should be able to earn a living again.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree, and I think he will. I think once this all liquidates out, it's kind of reminds me of I don't know if you ever watched the Wolf of Wall Street stuff at all. Jordan Belfort, that movie.
I don't think I've seen it all the way through. That's the one with my boy. God.
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill is in it.
Jonah Hill. I keep wanting to call him Seth Rogen, but no, Jonah Hill.
Yeah, they're like the same person.
Yeah, really.
But anyway, it's a true story. It's based on a true story. And basically, the guy had a pump and dump, legal, he was out doing illegal crimes, financial crimes for many years. He was also a drug addict. Went to prison, got out, still owed all these people, right? So in the same way that Alex Jones charged with this $1.2 billion settlement that he'll never be able to pay. Jordan Belfort owes all these people the money from the settlement of this trial. And so the government's watching him and all this stuff. And he's been allowed to kind of come back. He's got a show and he's got a bunch of products and sales trainings and all this shit. And it makes you wonder, it's like, they promoted a society in which you can literally be convicted of a crime like he was, go to prison, whatever, get out, and then he's still able to earn more money than what he has to pay back. So it's like, it's really bizarre. It's just like the Alex Jones stuff. Like, they're not really going to hurt Alex Jones because, yeah, he won't have a big company, but he won't have all the overhead now. Now he'll operate as a nonprofit pretty much.
Yeah, but I think the thing is too. It's part of it is to bring him down a peg, to to humble him. Like when you lose those large platforms, for people who get at the top of any game,
Mm-hmm.
anyone, like I said, Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon, my boy was Tucker Carlson, and now Alex Jones. Like, those people were at the top of their game, and then now to go on these smaller platforms, even if they can still scratch out a living, it's humbling. It's like, you're not the big dog anymore, and that's part of it. That's part of the process, I believe. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this all works out for him. Because I get it. It's entertainment, but I just think he went too far with the kids, and that's why I'm not saying it justifies how much the fine is or the judgment. I'm just saying I see why they did it. They did it because of what he did. So
yeah, it's you find out like this is the problem we have with the social media age and the disinformation on the internet too. Is there's so many people are just aligned to, especially politicality, right? So that people are just aligned to an ideal now. Before a lot of times before then they really have looked into the details. So it's like automatically, like this reminds me of the Jesse Ventura situation back when he was on MSNBC. Like, I don't know if you heard about any of that. This was back in the day, right? This is like 27 years ago. He got hired on MSNBC to do a show, and basically what happened was he went on there and started disparaging the Iraq war, like the Afghanistan war and the Iraq war. He was like anti-war. He didn't think they should have went to war, and the news heads at the division were like, "No, you can't talk about that stuff, Jesse. We can't have you do that." And he's like, "I'm going to talk about whatever I want because I don't believe in the war and we shouldn't have had it." They literally removed him from his show and paid him for like 2 or 3 years, millions of dollars, to do nothing because they just couldn't control him because he wasn't going to play ball. So they had to pay him to go home.
To silence him.
Yes, and it just goes to show you that when you look at media, and it's like, and interesting talking about Don Lemon too recently. When he had that interview with Elon Musk, and Elon Musk made him look kind of foolish in that interview.
Yeah,
it's like every one of us has an opinion, but if you lead your opinion based upon a standard that you have to be behind versus a standard that you actually hold, then you're in trouble. Like it's perfectly fine for Jesse Ventura to come out and say he's anti-war. That's what he should be able to do. That's what he believes, right? Like, could you imagine Jesse Ventura coming out saying, "Hey, I don't support this war, but because I'm on this show, I support the war"? That's terrible.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how things play out for all of these, all these folks that are launching their own platforms and they kind of going independent. I think it's tough as it may be for them. I think it's actually a good thing for society and media in general because it kind of expands the idea of what news is, what media is. Is media in the news strictly what you're going to find on a major network or a major streaming platform, or is it someone who's got the balls to get up and tell their truth or tell their particularly their truth? I would prefer their truth, and just put it out there and see who's going to come and receive it.
Yep, I agree, and I think the thing that's marginalized news in general is people's inability to actually say their own truth versus what they have to say.
Yeah.
And this is what's happened with the bipartisanship of everything, where everything has to ally left or right. I don't adhere to any doctrine of liberalism or conservatism. I wouldn't adhere to those things. I have to look at if you give me a piece of information, I got to look at it and I got to take the best concept I know. I don't filter it and say, what would Donald Trump think about this? And then give you the answer, right? Like I should be giving you the answer I think it is.
Yeah.
And we've gotten into this weird problem now, especially when you look at, liberals versus Republicans and, Democrats versus Republicans, liberals versus conservatives. It's this battlefront that doesn't make any sense, but it only furthers their agendas.
Yeah.
Because now they've got people arguing against each other and there's hatred against each other for something they really don't agree with anyway, right? Like you and I should be able to have a disagreement based upon our understand. Maybe it's just our understanding of something too, right? Like let's say you've got information I don't have, and so I go, "Hey, I don't agree with what you said there because it doesn't make sense." And maybe you say, "Well, look at this information," and then maybe I change my mind.
Yeah, but even that
it's gotten so hard to change your mind now, right? Because people will say, "Well, I can't change my mind," even if you prove to be something and you show me and say, "Hey, look at this information." I like a scientist would. I should be able to look at it and say, "Hey, I think of it differently now."
Yeah,
people
but
almost can't do that now.
Yeah, but this is a thing too. Even with that, like there were disagreements because back in the day they would fight on the House floor or the Senate floor, and then at the end of the day, in the evening they go out and have dinner and drinks, and they're like best buddies and stuff. Like they're really friends. So I don't.
Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton. They've got pictures of those two practically dancing together for decades.
I don't buy into all this they hate each other thing. I don't believe they hate each other. I believe that they're friends. I think that there's a lot of posing and posture, and there's a lot of acting and manipulation of people who don't know better.
Yes,
If you don't know any better,
so you
would
said a
think they
perfect
hate
thing
each
right
other.
there. I agree with you 100%. The people on the stage, the actors, the politicians, I agree with you 100%. They are the best of friends. I
Yes.
agree. It's the people out in the population that
Yes.
are now drawing a line in the sand based upon an opinion from a person who's really best friends with the other person they claim they
Yes.
disagree with.
And about
That's
things
the
they
problem.
really don't even, and
They
this
don't
is
know.
this is the other kicker, and it's about things that they don't even believe in. Some of these
Exactly.
things they don't believe in. I've seen some of these politicians
Yes.
will vote against a policy or some sort of initiative, and then turn around and go back to their district and tout how happy they are that those dollars are coming to the community. Like, wait a minute, you voted against it. So you're like, they don't even believe in the shit that they're selling to the people. You know what I mean?
Dude, do you remember that story that it was, I can't remember which senator it was. It was a guy from South Dakota or where, I don't even remember who it was. It was a few years back, but this guy was the biggest. I think he was right wing, super Republican, anti-gay. Like everything was anti-gay, right?
Yeah.
Then he ended up coming out as gay. Like they found him with like lovers and all. Yeah, I know. It's like that. That's the perfect example of it. Is it's like exactly. It's like they're spewing some sort of line that they've got to like. It's like writing your name on a paper next to something, and then everything that's next to it has to go in where your name is. That's what it is. It's bullshit. You know.
It's like the only thing you really have to believe in is believing in whatever that group you're in is selling. That's all you have to do. Like you have to believe in it to the extent to selling it, but don't really believe in it. Just believe in it enough to go out and push it. I remember this one dude. I don't know if he's not Missouri. I can't remember where he's from. I remember his name, Madison Cawthorn. He was conservative Republican, wheelchair bound gentleman. Not that has anything to do anything, but if that helps you to recall who he is. In any event, he was one of the boys. Like everything was cool, and he came out and he said something that got him into trouble. He was talking about like coke and sex-filled drug parties with like some of these politicians, and he exposed them. And I don't even know if he did it intentionally, but he went from being like one of the darlings where he could do nothing wrong to they got his ass out of there so quick. Like then they started like even when they got him out, they were still putting screws to him. They got him for some DUI shit. Like they really tried to bury the guy.
That, just like I was talking about earlier, with you and I have a company or business idea, and somebody doesn't want us in business, they're going to do everything to discredit us and put us out.
Yeah.
Once you're persona non grata to whoever the establishment is, it doesn't matter which side it is, they are fucking coming for you,
bruh. Knives out. But it happened so quickly. It was amazing to see how quickly he went from being one of the boys to like literally. You would see this guy on the road and people would probably spit on him or something. Like it was like crazy.
And dude, that's the problem we're in, where it's like, and believe me, I'm one of the most unpopular people everywhere because I try to base what I'm doing. It doesn't always happen because you're not always fed good information, but I try to base it on actually how I actually feel about something. And I try to do it with most everything, whether whatever it is, right? And it's super unpopular because I never have a group that I can ally myself with, because I'll be like, well, I don't like this, right? I don't agree with whatever this is, because from the way I look at it, maybe it may be a religious thing, maybe it's something I don't like from a religiosity perspective. And people will just throw the book at me because I don't adhere to whatever idea it is. And it's a tough, I will say this, if you're a person that stands on your own convictions, or a person that stands basically by a moral code that you believe is right, it's going to be a fucking lonely road for you. I can validate that, because everybody now, especially now, wants to ally with somebody who thinks alike almost on everything. Like you and I think alike on a lot of things.
Yes.
And we may differ on a lot of things as well, but I think you and I both have the center point of a standard that we stand upon, right?
Yep.
And that's getting hard to find. It just is. It's people are so wishy-washy because they got to go with whatever way the popular, like you said, whoever the best salesman in their group is.
Yep.
That's where they're selling to, even if it doesn't make any sense in their mind at all. Like they're sitting there going, this can't be true. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. They'll go out and spit it out verbatim.
Let's dress this pig up with some lipstick and a wig, and let's push it. Now, you know what? I can imagine too. Like, I'm one of those individuals. I could fit in a lot of spaces. Like, I kind of just have the ability to get along with people for the most part. Because, like, if there's respect and we can have a conversation, have discourse, we're good, right?
Yep.
But I also feel a lot of times like I don't necessarily fit or align myself completely with any one specific group too, because like, I have my political leanings, you know what they are. We've spoken, but I'm able to look, and compartmentalize, and I'm able to look across the aisle and say, okay, I see where that person's making sense, and I could vote for that person. I could literally vote for somebody in the other party if I believe that they're genuine and what they're bringing to the table is really for the betterment of people. I can legitimately do that.
That's how it should be, right? Because it's like the idea should be the champion, not the we have to choose this idea. Like that's just stupid. But that's what's happened now in the population. That's why we have so many issues that we have, especially with the mental health situations, because it's like if you don't buy into the bullshit on whatever side you want to buy into it, you're left by yourself, because that's the fastest way. That's why the religions used it for so many years, excommunication. It's the biggest fear we have is to be left out by ourselves.
Yep. But I find it liberating to not have to be tied to a group per se, to be able to have the fluidity to go and say, well, you know what these people are saying is true, and what these people say, like the news. I watch all of the different news networks. There's some that I watch more than others, but I actually will listen to broadcasts where I don't totally agree with the people because I need that perspective, because I don't want to be in an echo chamber. I literally seek out to hear, well, what are they saying? And is there any merit to what they're saying?
Dude, when I first hit me politically a long time ago, this was like probably 20 years ago, I used to listen to Michael Savage. I don't know if you ever listen to Savage Nation at all. It's a hardcore extremist Republican. You could probably call him a nut job in many cases, but radio show was entertaining as hell. He had a lot of valid points, a lot of things to say. At the same time, when I got done with Michael Savage, I would listen to Ed Schultz, who was a huge Midwest secular progressive, the exact opposite side of the table politically. Like these guys both sat on the freaking opposite side of the table, but their shows were almost identical.
Yeah.
I used to think, God, these guys are almost the exact same guy, just mysteriously on the extreme left and right of the table.
Yep.
That totally kind of opened my eyes back then, because it was like, oh, I see these guys really aren't very different. But they've got backers, right? They've got to go toe the money line.
I'll say this, and then we're gonna get ready to close it, because we could maybe have a whole nother episode that's just talking about this, because I've purposely, like I said, I've tried to steer away from talking politics because it becomes so divisive. But if we could have dialogue like this, I don't mind, because to me this is interesting. I want there to be a space where we can agree to disagree, and we can see that there are differences in our perspectives and see it's valid. Like there's a reason why a person will vote, like a billionaire will vote for a candidate that's going to give them tax breaks. Well, that's called voting for your interest, because that is their interest to pay less taxes. Whereas I can also see a person voting for a candidate that's going to, continue to prop up some social programs that benefit them, because that's voting for their interest. What I don't understand is people who vote against their interests. And that's so fascinating to me. What would compel a person to vote for someone who's going to pass policies that can actually harm them? And that's something I think we can maybe have a show about one day.
Well, and interesting you say that too, because I agree with that 100%, because in some cases that actually can show through to the character of the person too. Like if somebody's willing to vote in a way that actually harms them but benefits more, that's interesting, right? Like if somebody's willing to actually harm themselves but benefit somebody else, to me, the altruism, that's what the whole political system of the government should be about.
Yeah.
right? It's like the needs of the many way outweigh the needs of the few, but everything's been flipped for the last 100 years or so, where basically the few have all of the haves and everybody else is just struggling for the piece of the pie, which then the whole, political game comes into play. You've got to ally to a side. You've got to, otherwise you got no backing. I was like saying, bringing up Jesse Ventura, because if you follow his, when he was governor of Minnesota, he ran under the Independence Party, which was an independent party. People say people will say, well, he was independent. Well, that wasn't really independent. It was an independence party. So it was a party, but he opposed both Democrats and Republicans. And so he was, big frickin' target on his back. They hated him. They still do.
But you need that sometimes. You sometimes need something that's unconventional because it brings that extra perspective. So I just don't like people totally torching everything, because like you got to have a system. It's like
you have to. Well, it's like social systems. You have to have a police. You have to have a government.
Yeah.
And then these people sitting there to be like, oh God, get rid of the police, get rid of the fire department.
Yeah, defund the police.
Are you fucking crazy? Like it would be worse than the Wild West. You'd have to have a missile in your pocket.
Yeah, really. Wow.
And not just a soft kind.
Well, we got to let these good folks
yes,
go.
Indeed.
This was actually one of my favorite episodes, JD.
Yeah. Me too. Always good when we could just and we do, just for everybody that's listening out there, we do this all the time.
Yep.
Me and Mo Money can get on a conversation. We can talk for 10 hours. So
easily.
This channel, so this podcast, we try to keep this to kind of somewhat of a structure. We don't always follow it because, hey, we can do whatever the hell we want, right? Yep. It's our channel. Okay. If you don't like it, don't listen to it.
Yeah.
We will be having all kinds of different shows and things like this coming out. This is our main Basement Brothers podcast, but we'll be having all kinds of shows like this where we can dialogue about different things. We can watch and react to videos. We're going to get to a point where we want to be able to go live and have actual callers, especially when you get into more politicalized things. That might be great because there's all kinds of people that have opinions, right?
Yep.
So just food for thought. There'll be more stuff coming.
But just know too, our goal is never to vilify people. That's not what we do. We want to have perspective. We want to, we want to understand. My goal is always to understand. I want to understand. What people think, how they think, and why they think. Like I just want to understand. That's my goal in life. So
Yeah, me too. We are social scientists.
There you go. I don't know if we're very good ones, but that's basically what we are.
Hey, you don't have to be a pro to carry a card, right?
There you go, brother. Okay. Well,
all right. Well, till next time. More money as always.
Good.
We'll talk to you soon. Everybody out there in Radio Land, we will see you next time.
See you on the flip side.